My name is Chloe, and today I'm here to talk about my July stats, as well as my standout favorites, as well as an update on my physical TBR. And there were big changes this month, and so I'm really excited to talk about it. So let's just get into the stats first. So in July, it was obviously Deca TBR-a-thon, which always changes things up for me as far as how much I read, how quickly I read, my feelings on reading, and it did. Like every time it makes me a little slumpy, and I think it's because I am a mood reader at heart, and even drawing a card is too much structure. However, I really enjoy it. It just makes me a little slumpy because I'm like not a rule follower in that regard. Like you tell me I have to read this and hard pass, I'm not reading it. So I think that's why I'm not going to change anything. Maybe I will. Maybe next year I'll draw like 5 cards at once and then mood read which ones, but that might just make it worse. I don't really know. But anyway, all that to say, I'm still super motivated to read. So it's not a slump. It's just, it's like a rebellion thing. It's not a slump though, because I read 34 books in July and DNF'd 4. So that is a lot of books. That's 9,193 pages, which is 297 pages per day, which is just bananas to me. I should be tracking. I want to track the number of hours that I spend reading, whether physically or on audio. However, that's really hard because if you guys don't know, the red team was the winning team for Deca TBR-a-thon, and they get to pick one challenge for Becca and I to do in August. And one of the options is like a spinner wheel decides how many hours a day we need to read. And Becca was saying like, how much is your average? And I was like, I got no idea. So I know pages, but I don't know hours. And so it would be really interesting if that wins to figure it out. But we also I don't know if the poll's gonna be over by the time this is up, but there's some really great options, some things I really want to do. So if you are on the red team and you're in the Discord, go vote if it's still live. I'm not sure when it's going out, but anyway. So I read the book length was 270 pages per book. So shorter books, 1.1 books per day. 10 of them I read with my kids and 24 were solo reads. So really I read 24 books, and then the 10 with my kids are what we would have read regardless. And those had nothing to do with Deca TBR-a-thon. I read 18 novels, 9 chapter books, 5 graphic novels, 1 in verse, and 1 devotional. 19 were adult, 1 was young adult, and 14 were middle grade. So I read some middle grade on my own. I read 22 off my shelf and 12 from somewhere else. So while I would love to read solely off my shelf, especially with the kids, we just don't do that very often. And so I would love that percentage to be a little higher, but it's okay. It's great. I read 17 using Libby, 9 just straight from the library, 5 right off my shelves, 2 from Hoopla, and 1 from Spotify. So the Spotify thing is something I am trying to remember to always use, because you get 50, if you are a premium Spotify member or whatever, you get 15 hours, and I almost always forget about it. And so I really want to be using it. However, it's like a puzzle or like a game to try to figure out how to use the maximum hours without going over and being like in the middle of a book and out of time. But the other thing I'm proud of this month is using Hoopla. I don't typically use it because our Hoopla doesn't seem like it has that much, or at least not that much that I'm interested in, but I did use that. And I actually used it using ebooks, which previously I never would have done because you have to read it in the Hoopla app. However, in the Hoopla app, it's infinite scroll. And I really like that. And you can do that through Kindle on your phone, but no other way. So truthfully, I've been reading on my phone and it's not been awful. Anyway, let's talk about that. I read 18 on audio, 14 physically, and 2 ebooks. And I feel like I'm kind of coming into my ebook era. I feel like I'm kind of feeling the need to have an ebook all the time. Because like times when I'm just pacing, trying to get the baby to sleep or things like that, I can listen, but then I can't hear my other kids and it's annoying. Like I'll put one headphone in, but I can't, if they're talking to me, I get annoyed. Whereas I can have my phone and just like read. So I'm maybe entering some ebook phase. 6 were new release and 28 were backlist, which tracks. And then for genres, all over the board as always, but I read 11 contemporary, 8 women's fiction because I'm trying to read these summer books on my shelf. And so a lot of them are that contemporary women's fiction. 6 were nonfiction, 3 were magical realism, 2 were romance, 2 were sci-fi fantasy, 1 thriller, and 1 historical. So all over the board as I do. Storygraph, it was interesting. The moods that Storygraph said were emotional and lighthearted, pretty much equally, and then followed by hopeful, mysterious, and inspiring. So that was different than the prior months, and that's interesting. But one of the reasons I think that I am not like slumpy, like I'm not slumpy at all right now, and it's August 3rd, and I feel like one of the reasons like I didn't get slumpy as much in the month is because I had 45% medium paced, 36% fast paced, and only 18% slow paced. I feel like it's the slow paced books that always get me slumpy. So note to self, slow paced books get you slumpy. As far as star ratings, like I said, I had 4 DNFs, 4 2.5 stars, 7 3 stars, 15 3.5 stars, 6 4 stars, and 2 4.5 stars. So the 4.5 stars are like, I mean, they're favorites. They're not all-time favorites. They're not like put it on my top 50 of all time kind of books, but they're like, that was really good. A lot of people would probably give my 4.5 stars 5 stars. I'm kind of stingy on that. Like, I think my 5 stars are like other people's 6 star, but I don't do a 6 star because that's not a thing that you can do. And so my 4.5 stars are like so good, but not quite an all-time favorite. So having 2 of those in a month is pretty great. So my average was 3.43, which is up from June. And so that's great. Still not where I'd want it to be, but it's good. Storygraph. I use Storygraph just to track my reads, not the books that I read with the kids. None of the, and I include all of that in my personal spreadsheet. But on Storygraph, I just do the books that I read myself. And it said the average was 3.39. I also don't do quarter stars on my spreadsheet, but I do in Storygraph. And so it's a little bit different, a little bit lower. So actually, my reading is between a 3 and 3.5. And I'm hoping to get that up between 3.5 and 4 because those are the books that I really enjoy, but you win some, you lose some. So let's talk about the best books that I read. So I'm going to tell you about 3 middle grade books and 3 adult books. So the 3 middle grade, one is Please Pay Attention by Jamie Sumner. This is a book told in verse that it'll take you an hour maybe to read. And this is about a girl with cerebral palsy who was involved in a school shooting. And it is the week leading up to that as well as the aftermath. And it is heavy. It is hard hitting. It is written for a middle grade audience. So it's not incredibly detailed, but it does give some detail. So definitely tread carefully if giving this to an actual middle grade child. But this gal, she has cerebral palsy. She's been adopted, and her mother she was the NICU nurse where she was in the NICU, and now she's the school nurse. So she's also involved in this event in the school, and this was just so good. And Please Pay Attention is her writing a letter to her government office saying, please pay attention. This has got to stop. Like, how are we not more strict on things? And so I loved this. Like I said, it's heavy, but you're not there long because it's a book told in verse. And so reading this entire book in one sitting was an awesome way to do it. I accidentally did it that way, and that was a great way to do it because you really are like sitting in your feelings, but they're not lingering for very long. So yeah, this was really good. Then also a classic, The Mouse and the Motorcycle. I read this with my kids. I had never read this, and so this is an oldie but a goodie about a boy who meets this mouse and lets the mouse use his toy motorcycle and just all the adventures they get up to. It was really cute. And then the last one was a library book that I don't have. It's The Chocolate Touch, and this is about a boy. It's a King Midas retelling about this boy who loves chocolate, wants only to eat chocolate. Whatever his mom serves at dinner, he always poo-poos it and doesn't want it. And then he gets his wish one day, and everything he puts in his mouth turns to chocolate. His pencil turns to chocolate if he chews on it. Water, and so he can't have anything besides chocolate. So he kind of gets his wish, and of course there's repercussions that aren't as great as you might assume. So it was really cute. It is a series, and I cannot find the other books in the series it's an old book, and so the other ones I guess are just not in print anymore, so they're really hard to find, and I'm really bummed about it. But now let's talk about the 3 adult books. So The Girls Who Grew Big by Layla Motley. This is one of my favorites of the month. This is following 3 teenage mothers and their experience. 2 are Black, 1 is white, and just the experience of being a teen mom and how society treats you and how hard it is and the decisions you make. And this one has very graphic birth scenes. They also have a very graphic abortion scene. And this is it's a hard book to read, but it was really a good book to read. And while I personally was like heartbroken by some of the things these teenagers were doing and like just wanted to yell at them like don't let me help you, don't, this was a good window book into a perspective totally different than my own. And so I think those are important every now and then. And this was, again, not, it was probably like a 3.5 star, not an all-time favorite, but I really enjoyed it and appreciated it for what it was. Then also, The Other Side of Now. This is one of my 4.5 star books. This is about a woman who was given this decision. I mean, she had this decision when she was a college girl. You know, she had the decision to go to either a school in Ireland or to stay in her, like, near her hometown in Florida. And her best friend both applied to this school in Ireland. Her best friend did not get in. And so they decided to stay together, stay in Florida, do all the things. Now, she is a soap star, a soap opera star, and she is very much run by her producers and all that kind of stuff. They tell her how to look, how to act, all the things. And her show is, like, maybe going to get canceled, and her life is just kind of in a weird turmoil, and she's really not sure. And so she decides to take a little break and go to this town in Ireland where she would have gone to school. And when she gets there, everybody knows her and everybody is acting as if she lives there and she's a part of the community. And her best friend is there. And her best friend in the Florida timeline, her best friend has died. And so her best friend is there, fully alive, living this whole life. And so it's a what would have been if she would have gone to school in Ireland. And I really loved it. I really loved our character growth and her realization of just how you have to make your own decisions and live life for yourself. Because if you don't, there are lots of people out there that would love to make decisions for you and control your life for you. And I mean, if you don't make decisions for yourself, then you're giving them that power. And so I loved this and how easy it is. Like, I'm such a people pleaser that it is so easy to give that power to other people. And so, yeah, this was really, really good. This was one of my 4.5s. And then the other 4.5 is The Last Parenting Book You'll Ever Read by Megan Francis. This is written with the intended audience of parents who are about to become empty nesters or who are newly empty nesters, about kind of letting your kids go, letting your kids be adults, letting them kind of, you know, spread their wings, get out into the world. And while that is not the stage I am in right now, I'm in the stage of little kids. This is a book that made me feel seen and also made some of the, like, present day nostalgia that I've got better. You know, there's that feeling every night when my kids go to sleep. I think about, gosh, these are the things I would have done differently today. I should have treated them better in this regard, or we should have done this, or I shouldn't have done this, or whatever. And I'm thinking, gosh, my kids are growing so darn fast. They really are. And so that'll make you really, really sad. And this book made that feel seen, but also reminded us that, like, you can't cherish every moment. You can't commit everything to memory, because this is a very hands-on stage of life. I have 4 small children that depend on me. And that's a lot, you know, that's a lot. And it's such a blessing and it's such a great thing. And it's exactly how I want to live my life. But to think in 10 years that I will remember the day to day in the way that we're living now is just not reasonable, because my stimulation level is so high that, like, it just isn't going to happen. And that's okay. What we need to do is be present right now, and every day of our kids' lives, be present and focus on where they are at that point and enjoy them for where they are at that point. And then when we are able to kind of release them into the world, to then have time to reinvent ourselves and rediscover ourselves. And so I'm excited for that stage of life. I'm happy that it's not today, but I'm also excited. I don't know if you can hear the baby. She's squealing and crawling this way. But anyway, this was really, really great. And I really liked it. And I want a copy of it, but it's brand new. And so finding it for a price that my cheap self is willing to pay is not going to happen right now. But anyway, so that's everything that I read in July, and the highlights, the stats, all the great things. So now let's update about the TBR. So I started July with 379 unread books on my TBR. My low-key goal, my kind of stretch goal for the month is 300, or for the year is 300. Now, if you guys have been following along, I've gone up, I've gone down. I think in January I started with like 380 something, so I have not made huge strides. However, this month we made a 16 book dent in this. So now my current TBR is 363 books. That does not include middle grade. That's just the books that are adult or YA that I will read myself. But 16 books down. So I feel so good about that. And that makes it seem like, okay, we've got August, September, October, November, December, 5 more months. If we have 16 books each time, we're going to get there. So we'll just see. We'll see. But yeah, let me know how everything is going for you guys in July. Cheer me on with this take down the TBR thing, because I am organizing. If you guys have followed the vlogs and stuff, you would see we got new shelves, a whole closet now for middle grade stuff. And I'm organizing those books, and we have so many good ones. Stop reading from the library as much. I love my library. I want to use my library. However, I need to be reading these books off of our shelf, even though, like I said, that number doesn't include middle grade, myself included. Stop going to the library, read your own books, go to the library, but not as often. Anyway, pep talking to myself. So that's it. Thank you guys again. We'll see you in the next one.